Hello there and welcome to Meet the Hero. I'm Michael McGhee and this is a new set of videos set to feature on our YouTube channel, which will be me taking a brief look at the different heroes available for you in Dota 2. The first hero to feature is going to be Puck, who's an intelligence based hero who's normally always played in the solo lane. In this instance I'm with a partner, but that's only because I'm playing with bots and you can't control them. The reasons for him playing in the solo lane are vast, but it's mainly because he's really awesome at surviving there. He's not the tankiest of heroes, but his skill set allows him to survive for a long time, especially in 2 against 1 situations. He's handy to have in your team because he's one of, if not the best initiators in the game, which is again down to his skill set, which I'll just go over quickly now. His first skill is called Illusory Orb, and when he uses it, he launches an orb in any direction he chooses, which does damage to all enemy units hit. The damage on that varies from 70 to 280 at max level, and at any moment in time during its travel he can teleport to it. This is again awesome for survivability. If he gets in a sticky situation, he can use the orb, which travels over terrain, and they can teleport to it once he's safe and clear. It also makes it perfect for initiation because it coincides well with his other skills. His second skill is called Waning Rift, and that's like how long? It's from 0.75 seconds to 3 seconds silence, which has a 400 radius. It's really difficult to land this if you're just trying to run in and land the silence, which is why it's almost always used in conjunction with Illusory Orb. Because it can fly in, you can even do it from the jungle or something where they can't see. You can fly in across the terrain, teleport to whatever position it's at, and then silence the enemies in the area. It also does damage as well, which ranges from 60 to 240 at max level. His third skill's one of the most annoying in the game. It really irritates me playing against him, especially if he's got it on autocast. But basically for a short period of time, Puck can make himself invincible to all incoming attacks. This includes auto attacks, tower damage, stuns, you name it, it blocks it. It's got a quick duration at the first level, 0.75 seconds, so trying to time it well is a skill that's quite difficult to master. But at max level it lasts for 3 seconds, and it can be turned to autocast, in which case basically every 3 seconds that will automatically block a targeted attack on Puck, which can be so irritating, especially if you're trying to chase him down. His final skill, which is ultimate, is Dream Coil. Dream Coil is another excellent area of effect stun, which it does work as eventually, but it's great for crowd control, and it can force the opposite team to look compact together, and they can bring in, well then you can bring in the rest of your team to do the damage. Basically it lays down a sort of weed field which will cling on to any enemies in the area. Enemies can then either wait for it to disappear, or else they can try and run away. If they run away, they can get 600 radius total before it stuns them when it breaks. And when it breaks it also does extra damage. The damage on that is 100 at the first level, and 100 more if it breaks, and then 200 and 200 more if it breaks at top level. Again, using his first skill to teleport in, silencing, and then throwing down his ultimate makes him an absolute nightmare to deal with in teamfight situations, and it's really difficult to avoid it as well. So we know what the skills do, but how do we build them? It really depends on the lane setup that you're in. If you're in the solo lane, I would recommend getting at least 1 point in phase shift in the early stages, simply because if you're in a lane against like 2 stunners or quite a lot of burst damage, because you've not got a lot of HP, you're susceptible to being killed early on. Getting phase shift can give you that extra bit of protection and prevent you from dying. If you're in a lane that should be quite easy to survive in, like a 1v1, or if you're in the middle lane, or if you're in the lane with a partner as well, I would leave phase shift out until you really have to, and max out Illusory Orb and Waning Rift. get your ultimate at level 6 all the time. Now, items. Let me get my trusty piece of paper, which you can hear rustling around. I'm actually a Heroes of New Earth player. I've recently made the switch to DotA, and I'm still trying to get used to all of the terms. They're even more nerdy than they are in HoN. You can see in the early game I've got power treads for my boots. I would recommend that all the time pretty much, especially if you're in solo lanes. Again, the extra 200 HP from switching it to strength can be vital for surviving attempted ganks or early harassment. And in the later game you can switch them up to intelligence, which will give you an extra 10 damage, which is also handy for your team. I've also gone for a magic wand, which basically works like power supply for Heroes of New Earth players out there. Basically it gains a charge every time a hero nearby uses a skill, an enemy hero nearby uses a skill. Each of those charges will restore, I believe, 10 HP and 10 mana. I could be wrong on that, but it's around the 10 HP, 10 mana mark, and it's got a maximum of 15 charges. The reason for picking this up in the early game, again if you're in the solo lane, is because A, if you're being ganked or they're attempting to gank you and you need an extra bit of HP, you can use all your saved up charges and it will restore 150 HP instantly. And again, if you're looking to put out some extra harassment, or if you've not got enough mana to maybe set up a gank with the middle lane or something like that, then you can quickly use the charges, get some extra mana, and it will allow you to get a skill or two off. This is where it gets kind of tricky, because there's a lot of different ways to build them, and a lot of people will disagree with every other way. So I'll go over a couple of different ways anyway. In Heroes of New Earth, if you play bubbles, then a core item, pretty much his only core item, and one that everyone across the board will go for, is a portal key. In Dota 2 it's not quite as vital, and it's not quite as favoured by the professional community. A lot of the time they prefer just to use their skills to go in. They'll phase shift while they're in the middle of a team fight, and then they'll walk out when they can. You can still pick it up. What it does is it, for those who don't know, is it teleports you instantly to a target position within a certain range. The only thing it really does is it makes your initiation quicker, and it makes it almost impossible to avoid if you're in the enemy team, and it can also allow you to zip in, use your skills, and then zip out before you die. But that's not your job. Your job is to initiate for your team and cause as much annoyance and damage as possible. So with Portal Key or Blink Dagger for Dota 2 players out there out of the way, the other different builds you can go for, one is the Lincoln Sphere. Lincoln Sphere just gives you 15 in all attributes. It gives you 6 HP mana 6 HP health regeneration and 150% mana regeneration. But the great thing about it is that every 20 seconds it will block one targeted skill, which will include like ultimates and stuff as well. So if an enemy hero uses their ultimate on you or any skill and that's off cooldown, then it will put their ultimate or skill into cooldown and put your Lincoln Sphere into cooldown for another 20 seconds. That's great for survivability, and it also gives you some good mana and health regen for the later game, which means you don't have to really go back. Another item that's worth going for and can make you a nuisance to play with, play against in team fights, is Scythe of Device, which is more commonly known as Sheepstick. That's in both Dota and HoN. This item basically allows you to target an enemy and immobilize them for 3.5 seconds. What it'll do is it'll turn them into a harmless critter, is what it says in the description. And then during those 3.5 seconds they can't cast any skills, they can't use any items, they can't do anything, they're basically just open to being attacked by your whole team. And it's awesome for taking out like the enemy carry hero. You can just wipe him out of the team fight completely for 3.5 seconds and then focus him while he's been hexed. An item that's worth going for if you're looking to be a bit more of a carry and put out more damage is Eye of Skadi. I'm not actually sure what it's called in Heroes of New Earth, but it basically gives you a 20% attack slow and a 30% movement slow on targeted enemy heroes with your auto attacks. It also gives you an extra plus 25 in all attributes, an extra 24 damage, an extra 150 mana, and extra 200 HP, which is pretty handy. Another item that can be really handy to pick up in the later game, and which synergizes awesomely with Puck's skill set, is Shiva's Guard. Ideally you'd like to zap in using Illusory Orb, silence them using Waning Rift, use your ultimate on them to keep them in place, and then pop the Shiva's Guard, which will emit a freezing wave which does 200 damage to nearby enemies and slows their movement for 40% for 4 seconds. Passively, it also reduces the enemy's attack speed, which can be good for prolonged team fights, but it's all about the offensive qualities of this item. If you can zip in, get your skills off and use Shiva's Guard, the enemy's pretty much screwed and your team would find it really easy to jump on top of them and get all of their skills off. Well, that's it for our first guide. I hope that it's helped you get to know Puck a bit more. Although pretty basic, it should give you an idea of how to build them, both skill and item wise. Remember that this is a bit of a pilot, so any feedback from you guys is appreciated, and I'll see you next time.